While everyone's getting excited about the release of Spider-Man Far From Home, they might want to approach with caution. If we're looking at Marvel's recent track record, then the much-anticipated web-slinging film will likely be a massive success, but there's one part that you're just gonna... You're gonna want... It's tough to... Look, you're gonna hate it. Flat out, there's one part you're gonna hate. How do I know? Because Tom Holland says so. During a recent interview, the actor was quoted as saying, "There's a scene in this film where audiences will feel like they've been punched in the face. My favorite. I love spending my money to feel like I've been punched in the face." He goes on to add, "Even filming it, I remember walking out and watching it again on the monitors and asking John, Watts, the director, 'Are you sure that's okay?' Apparently Watts agreed, replying, 'No, it's not.' People are gonna hate this scene." Well, at least there's something to look forward to. Remember when they were making the original Star Wars and George Lucas was all like, "We need to add something that people are really gonna hate"? No? Wait, did I make that up? Now, I could sit here and theorize and come up with possibilities of what that dreaded scene might entail, but that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Sorry, did I word that weirdly? There's just so many ways that this could go, especially now that there's time travel, alternate realities, multiverses, and Jake Gyllenhaal are all part of the equation. So let's break down what this scene from hell might be. This might be the first time this sentence will ever be uttered by a Marvel fan, but the first thing that comes to mind is the X-Men. With the recent merger between Disney and Fox clearing up all the legal muck, it's more possible than ever for the X-Men to appear in the MCU. After all, Team Mutants are a massive part of the comic book universe, but have yet to appear in the same world as the Avengers and pals. The first issue was a legal one, because Disney owned the rights to the MCU and Fox owned the rights to the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. Now that they're all under the same umbrella, they could theoretically appear on the same screen at the same time. The second issue, though, is that the X-Men movies kinda suck. Hey, don't shoot the messenger, I'm just reporting the facts. If you're one of the 14 people who actually enjoyed the X-Men movies, then I'm sure you're all so thrilled about the last season of Game of Thrones and can't wait until your next ear infection. Whether it's the confusing plots, messy timelines, bad costumes, or just the fact that they don't always do the comics justice, the on-screen X-Men tend to rub fans the wrong way. Marvel Studios might not care too much about that though, seeing as how introducing the X-Men into the MCU would equal loads of moolah. Just imagine how many more movies they can pump out with all those extra characters. Whether we like it or not, they're probably chomping at the bit to get these mutants involved in the main story. And Far From Home, now that Phase 3 is wrapping up and Phase 4 is getting started, could be the perfect opportunity to introduce them. My wallet is already empty just thinking about the possibilities. Wait a second, I had $60 when I walked in here. Hey, did anybody take my money? I bet it was Craig, that guy's the worst. Another possibility is that Spider-Man croaks. Not like at the hands of a villain in some climactic battle, but kind of just like, maybe a stroke, maybe some unhealthy habits got the better of him. You never know. That sure would cause a ton of shock and get people talking. Imagine they bring Spider-Man back from the snap, only to have him perish in the next movie by getting tetanus from stepping on a rusty can or something, or getting rabies from getting bit by a raccoon. Not a radioactive one, just a regular old raccoon. During the very same interview we referenced earlier, Tom Holland says the scene is, quote, very tense, and it sort of whips the rug from underneath you. While that's still pretty vague, over 600,000 people a year die from falling, so that's gotta be a pretty important rug.
Yeah, man, it really tied the room together.
What better way to surprise audiences than have the hero of the movie completely taken out? They've dipped their toes into that kind of water before, with Avengers Infinity War ending on a good guy defeat, and Endgame showing the passing of one of the franchise's marquee characters. I'm talking about Iron Man. Far From Home is the 5th film of Tom Holland's 6-film contract, meaning this could be close to the end of the line. Of course, he can always just renew his contract and keep making Spider-Man movies for the next 30 years, but I can also light myself on fire. What I'm trying to say is just because it's possible doesn't mean it's gonna happen. All we know for certain is that Tom Holland only has 2 movies left on his contract, meaning Far From Home could spell the end for Spidey, and then we'd get some kind of a cameo or a short flashback in a future film. On second thought, Marvel just got rid of some of their biggest names in Endgame. I'm still talking about Iron Man. Odds are they'll want to keep the Spidey train rolling for a little while longer. So if he doesn't die in Far From Home, what could this horrendous scene be? What if there's a training montage? This is a superhero movie after all, there needs to be some sort of triumph, right? It's not out of the realm of possibility that Spider-Man Far From Home features a lengthy, cheesy, 80s-style Rocky-esque training montage. As a matter of fact, yeah, I think that's absolutely what's gonna happen. Just 6 full minutes of gut-wrenching workout clips, Peter Parker running up the steps, doing push-ups, doing sit-ups, running on the beach and jumping into Mysterio's arms like Rocky and Apollo. I could even see Ned following him on a bike as Spider-Man runs the streets. According to the movie trailers that exist, it seems as though Mysterio will fill somewhat of a mentor role for a young Peter Parker. You know, since you know who's no longer around? Iron Man. Petey Boy will need to find his Eye of the Tiger in order to come out victorious at the end of this one. You can bet on it, if you're a really irresponsible and terrible gambler, that is. But Peter Parker isn't going to Philly, and he's certainly not training in a cabin in the Siberian tundra. He's going to Europe. Come to think of it, prior to Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter Parker vlogs the events of Captain America Civil War. We also know that Far From Home centers around a European vacation, which would be a prime place to film some awesome vlog content. So I'm calling it right now, Peter Parker becomes a YouTube sensation. Heck, with enough views, he may as well give up being a superhero and focus on his channel full-time. But what would make fans really upset is if he collaborated with another YouTuber. After racking our brains over here at BTS HQ, the best candidate we can come up with is none other than Casey Neistat. It makes so much sense. They both live in New York, so it wouldn't be hard for them to meet up, and they both vlog their day-to-day lives. Imagine if Spider-Man stopped swinging around on all those webs and started using one of those boosted boards instead. Ugh, audiences would lose their shiitake mushrooms. I'm getting worked up just thinking about it. Craig, where's my juice box? Let's say Peter Parker doesn't blow up on YouTube. What else could happen that would really grind people's gears? Well, maybe it has more to do with the romantic side of the story.
No, God!
After all, the action-packed superhero fighting is fun, but the real meat and potatoes of the story
No! No! No!
is the relationship between Peter Parker and MJ. Will they, won't they? They're like the new age Ross and Rachel. 2 people I went to high school with who ended up getting married and having 3 kids. I miss them. We were such good friends. It goes without saying that fans would get pretty annoyed if anything were to come between Peter and MJ, like, say, another girl. It would make viewers even more upset if that new girl was Kendall Jenner. Think about it. Kendall's dating history is a who's who of actors, athletes, and musicians. The one type of famous person she hasn't dated? A superhero. On top of that, Far From Home takes place in Europe during the summer, so maybe Kendall's in town getting ready for Milan Fashion Week, you don't know. I can see it now. Peter falls head over heels for Kendall and loses sight of his mission. Much like the laundry list of pro athletes who got worse after dating a Kardashian or a Jenner, Peter lets his hero duties suffer at the hands of his infatuation. But have no fear, because Kendall will likely save the day and end all conflicts by walking up to the elementals and handing them a Pepsi. While that would be very pop culture of them, it's not quite internet enough. So what I'm thinking is another possible scene that would rub fans the wrong way is a remake of that famous double Spider-Man cartoon face-off meme. While it may sound silly, it's actually a lot more possible than you'd think. In the trailer for Far From Home, they drop hints about the multiverse. If we're going down that route, then multiple Spider-Men, or is it Spider-Mans? Anyways, it's a very real option. There's even a comic book storyline featuring an English counterpart to the American Spider-Man named Billy Braddock. Billy Braddock and Peter Parker. Real original. Seeing as Tom Holland's actually English, it wouldn't be a stretch to see him don his natural accent and play both roles. A face-off between Peter Parker and Billy Braddock recreating the popular internet image would have meme lords rejoicing, but would likely cause diehard Marvel fans' blood to boil. 2 Spider-Men? Marvel, have you been reading my diary?
Yes.
Alright, let's try and think of another possibility of what this scene might be, and this time let's think a little bit outside of the box. What's something that's universally disliked? What could Spider-Man do that would make fans so angry? Well, he's on a trip with a bunch of friends. It stands to reason that there's going to be quite a lot of group socializing. Maybe Peter Parker's the kind of guy that whips out an acoustic guitar during a gathering. It doesn't get much worse than that guy. Imagine MJ, Ned, and the whole gang are hanging out having a good time. Then, without anybody asking for it, Peter whips out that guitar of his. Everyone needs to abruptly end their conversations and reluctantly pay attention as Peter sings Wonderwall in its entirety. Nobody's ever into it, but there's always that one guy. Go ahead, tag yours in the comments section below. Or perhaps the movie goes another route, with another annoyingly overdone trope. It's certainly possible that the movie begins with a 10-minute packing montage where Peter tries on different outfits while Ned gives his approval and disapproval. You know exactly the type of montage I'm talking about, where the main character comes out of the dressing room wearing different silly outfits, much to the dismay of their friend who sits and judges. Imagine Ned shaking his head and giving a thumbs down to Peter's outfits until he finally puts on that spider suit and gets a big grin and a thumbs up. It would be pretty cheesy, and judging from what I've seen in past movies, I do not trust Ned's opinion when it comes to fashion. Another possible option that would frustrate audiences worldwide is if Peter Parker takes a shower with his socks on. Moving on, fans have been getting worked up over some behind-the-scenes candids of Tom Holland in the dark Spider-Man suit. While we can't wait to see this version of Spider-Man on screen, we may never actually get that opportunity. Look, mistakes happen on movie sets all the time. There's so much going on and there's so many people responsible for so many moving parts that oversights happen. What if someone forgot to remove the lens cap while shooting this dark Spider-Man scene? If I were them, I'd just use some footage from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3 and hope that nobody notices. Die-hard fans might spot the differences though, and would probably have an issue with it. Wait a second, we haven't even talked about Jake Gyllenhaal yet. Yes, he's portraying Mysterio in Far From Home, and according to the trailers, it'll be mostly in a good guy capacity. It'll be interesting to see how these two leading men get along and what sort of bond they form. However, you ever wonder why such an A-list actor like Gyllenhaal has never landed a role in one of these blockbuster superhero movies? Well, one reason might be because he's been typecast. I have it on very good authority that the scene Tom Holland is referring to involves Spider-Man and Mysterio going camping together on a mountain. There, they fall in love, but they have to keep their affair a secret. It's a heart-wrenching part of the movie that my sources tell me, quote, felt like the rug was getting swept from under them. Those are my best guesses. What do you think the hated scene in Far From Home will be? Leave your assumptions in the comments section below. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and I'll be your best friend. Oh, and also subscribe to this channel because we make plenty more videos. Bye!